Let's go another part of your book. You reference Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 and their significance to our understanding about just how wicked Satan is and what he's really up to.
Yeah. Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 are companion chapters. Almost all of the scholars, people who are deeply learned in Hebrew and Old Testament theology and understanding, almost all. I say almost because some people take exception to what I'm getting ready to say, but they're just wrong. Well, I'm trying to be funny. I'm always trying to stay humble enough to say, look, I could be wrong about this. But in my book, you'll discover that I have highly referenced and sourced what I'm getting ready to say. Multiple, very well credentialed and very renowned scholars agree with what I'm getting ready to say. Isaiah 14 starts as a lament upon the king of Babylon, as Israel is being taken into captivity. But it moves, by the time you get to the end of it, it's what's called a compound prophecy. That is, it starts speaking about an earthly person, but then it moves into this understanding that, oh my gosh, the writer now, Isaiah, is not talking now. He's moved from an earthly person into the spiritual realm. He's gone to the different dimension. And by the time you get near the end of Isaiah, you hear the word of God say, "Oh, how you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer." Some say, some translations say, "O son of the dawn." Some translations say, "O morning star." And then it goes on to say, "How you have fallen from heaven." Well, who has fallen from heaven? Well, we know, Satan. It goes on to say, you say, "I will ascend to the Most High. I will ascend to the Mount of the Assembly. I will ascend to the throne of God. I will be like the Most High God." Well, who are we hearing from? The king of Babylon? Did he fall from heaven? No. We're hearing from Satan himself, and we're hearing the pride. And then it goes on to say, God says, "But I will bring you down. I will destroy you. I will make you a disgrace before the nations," and on and on and on. Now, when you get to Ezekiel 28, you hear the same kind of thing, except it's even more detailed. God is now speaking to the king of Tyre, Tyre. But by the time you get to the end of Ezekiel 28, the whole thing shifts. And God says, "You were in the garden. You were an anointed cherub." Well, the king of Tyre wasn't in the Garden of Eden. He's not an angelic being. But it goes on to say, "You were on the Mount of Assembly." Now, anybody that knows Old Testament theology knows that means in the divine council. That is, in the realm of the angelic realm, that's the thrones around the throne of God, the 10,000 times 10,000 angels that we see throughout the Bible that surround the throne of God, the living creatures, the thrones set up around the thrones like Daniel saw. That's what it means, Mount of Assembly. So he says, you were in the garden, you were on the Mount of Assembly, you were my anointed cherub, but you profaned the garden, and I cast you out as a profane thing. And then he says, "And I will reduce you to ashes for this." And I'm paraphrasing, but that's what Ezekiel 28 says. So the bottom line is, from those two chapters, we get amazing information about Satan, his fall, his pride, his arrogance, his plan to rule the world. Well, we get to the New Testament, we're told that through the Antichrist, that's exactly what Satan wants to do. And we're also told he was in the Garden of Eden. We're also told that he was not a talking snake, but he was an anointed cherub. As we continue through, we find out that the cherubim in Ezekiel are the living creatures. By the time we get to Revelation chapter 4 and 5, we hear about the four living creatures that surrounded the throne as the guardians of God's holiness. They were the worship leaders, if you will, of the entire assembly. That's what Satan was. So we can go on and on, but Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 give us a lot of information about what happened, who was there, why it happened, who Satan is, what he's up to, and it's important that we know those chapters. And I get into that in my book quite thoroughly and connect it all the way to the book of Revelation and into the headlines of our news today.
And while Satan is a defeated enemy, he is going to take down as many people as he can. We're talking with pastor and author Carl Gallups. We're discussing his book, Gods and Thrones. When we come back, our final...
The Satanists wanted to install their own tribute, a pagan idol, on the Capitol grounds, right next to the Ten Commandments.
Billions around the planet are witnessing a world in the grasp of sadistic spiritual darkness. This unholy alliance has infected our governments, our religious institutions, and our societies. The world appears to be unraveling. But can the evil behind these dark supernatural forces be defeated? Is everything playing out just as the Bible predicted it will in the final days? At last, you can know the answers to mankind's most urgent questions and learn your destiny among today's events in the new, unprecedented work taking the prophecy world by storm. Gods and Thrones, Nakash, Forgotten Prophecy, and the Return of the Elohim by best-selling author, former decorated law enforcement officer, and senior pastor Carl Gallups. This changes everything. Available now wherever fine books are sold.